Well, good morning guys and welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about mounting your tweeter into the car, whether it be in the A-pillar, the sail panel, or someplace else where there is an existing factory tweeter, so stay tuned. Replacing your factory tweeter is something that we do a lot. Even though we have a cool laser that allows us to make our own custom brackets and stuff like this, which are really pretty awesome, not everyone has the access to that. Today we're gonna look at this. This is a Honda Civic that has the factory tweeter located here in the A-pillar, on how we can use what comes in the box to mount our new tweeter in place. The tweeter we're gonna be using is the Focal Flax tweeter, this guy right here. It does have a removable grill. It's tight, but it does come off, which exposes the tweeter. Don't touch the tweeter. But we are going to need to remove it in order to lock this into place. For right now, we'll keep it on to keep it safe. And it comes with two mounts. This little angled mount here and this flush mount here. And then some mounting brackets to achieve the whole, scissor it in place. But before we look at all of that, how we're going to integrate into it, we need to get this factory tweeter out. Some cases, this one in particular, they screw the tweeter into the mount, which is great. Other times, what a lot of people like to do now is heat form the tweeter in that there's a leg that sticks up here and they heat it in. If yours is like that, very carefully take your knife and slowly cut it off. You want to cut it as flush as you can so that when you go to put your mount back in, you can actually use a screw to screw it into place. A short one, of course. This one does have 3 screws. Once it's removed, let's take a look at the A-pillar and the cup that came with it. We call these cups. These are, typically you drill a hole, you flush mount it in, you twist the tweeter into place, and it's like a speaker cup. Don't try to drink out of it because it has holes and it won't do any good. Looking at the hole that this has, our cup won't fit directly inside of it. However, that doesn't mean you can't use it. What we like to do is flip the cup over so that we can see this existing lip and then set it on top like this. What you want to do at that point is look around to see if this edge is flush with this edge. You don't want it to overhang. If it overhangs, it's going to look cheesy and like it's not made to be there. In this case, this one does fit perfect. What that means is I can then take something like this, a grinder or a roto zip of some kind, and slowly work from the back side. And slowly work from the back side here. Never come from the front side, always the back side, because you don't want this to accidentally slip out and then you scratch the top of this, which would be terrible. And make this hole bigger just by going around like this until it gets big enough, and test fit it as you go. Once this is big enough, this piece here will come in from the back like this. You put the screw in and it'll lock it into place. Don't be afraid to pinch these if you need to, or bend them and readjust them so that they fit better around this. However, this particular one comes with this, which is what a lot of factory tweeters do come with. They have some kind of a mount. And it's always funny when people talk about, oh, don't glue your tweeters in. Well, okay, so this tweeter from the factory is glued into place. So as far as serviceability goes, it's not real serviceable. I have to buy this whole new bracket from Honda to replace this tweeter. We want to make sure when we're adding our tweeter into this, there is some serviceability, because God forbid you may actually blow this tweeter. Keep that in mind anytime you're designing some form of mount. You do have to get the tweeter out. Be prepared to do that. This has glue located in 3 places. What we like to do is a little bit of heat, just a little bit, real quick, like that. I mean, literally that quick. And a flathead screwdriver, and just kind of push like this, and you get one corner started, and it'll pop right out. There we go, we have the tweeter. Compare the size of your factory tweeter to your aftermarket tweeter. In this case, these are very similar. You'd like it to be just a touch smaller if possible. I mean, ideally would be it's the exact same size, you just put it in and you're done. But most of the time it's either gonna be bigger or smaller. Smaller is good because you can always make a step-up ring to make it bigger. In this case, this one is a little bit smaller, which is good. We'll set this tweeter aside for right now because we're done with it. We need to look at the mount. This particular mount has 3 little teeth located around here. And if I set my tweeter into this, it does fit pretty good. However, like we said, it is a little bit smaller and it kind of wallows around. Because I have a laser, the first thing I thought of was, well, heck, I'll just make a sleeve, put it all in, and everything will be great. But then that would be counterproductive for what we're trying to show you. That led us to our next idea. What if we remove these 3 pieces? Do I have something that would allow me to mount my tweeter into that? And that's where I have this, which is the skinny surface mount sleeve. In which case, yeah, if I test fit like this is actually the right size for this. One cool thing about something like this is you can do anything you want with it. You can mount it, you can cut it, you can shape it. This is a really cool piece to have, and a lot of manufacturers give you something like this for your tweeter. But before this will fit into here, I need to remove these 3 pieces. To do that, I'm going to use a chisel as well as a very sharp razor knife. Now this is going to take some time. Don't rush it, go slow, because you don't want to break the tweeter mount. So gently just work your way down and remove these. Depending on what car you're working on, this is going to be a little bit different. And there again, you could use something like a Dremel tool to get in there and shape it. Whatever is easiest for you or that you have access to. Now once we remove these 3 pieces, there is one other part of this that we need to remove, and that is flipping this over and looking at if there's any bumps or risers on this, in which case there's 3 more of those here. And when we put our tweeter into place, it does kind of make it sit weird, so I'm going to file these little teeth flat as well. Alright, all good there. Our little angle mount piece, it will fit in there nice and snug. However, as we see, it's not, this could possibly hit. We don't want that. Silver Sharpie. Trace the product that we want to remove. And for this, I like to just use a sanding disc. Clean it up, get all the burrs off of it. Normally I like to do my sanding away from my work area. Obviously for the video though, it's right here. I typically sand over by our router station. That way I don't have to get that mess onto it. Test fit it again. Make sure that it is going to clear, flush. Now we need to get our tweeter into this pod. Depending on the tweeter you have, it's usually some form of a twist and lock. In this case, the Focal is no different. There's usually 2 or 3 teeth, and then you drop it into place, lock it in, make sure it is, and immediately put your grill back on. Push it down and make sure it is where it needs to go. And there we go, we have our tweeter ready. Slide it back into place. Test fit it, looks good. Even though we've test fitted it, what we need to do now is mount this back into the car. The reason why we want to do that is we want to make sure we get our tweeter lined up properly. We don't want to push it through too far. Now, slide it into place. Flip it over, check the front, make sure that it is where it needs to go. Move it around a little bit. Once you have it all in there to where it looks the way you want it, now you're gonna need some CA glue. You can get it all over the place, hobby stores as well as Amazon. Put a few drops here, 3 spots, just like they did. We use the thick, so just give it like 10 seconds to kind of harden up. We're not gonna spray the activator on it yet. Remove this back out. And the reason why we're not going to spray the activator on it quite yet, we're just putting this on there to just kind of line it up and let it get tacky and stick where it needs to, is the activator, depending on which activator you have and what glue you're using, can discolor plastic. And we don't want to discolor our A-pillar. We don't care about the mount because you're never going to see that. I'm going to add a little bit more glue to this area down in the bottom that we couldn't get to. So just like the factory, 3 little points of glue. And now we'll hit it with the activator. Make sure when spraying the activator there's nothing around that you could possibly get a dusting of. Alright. This stuff dries pretty fast. I'm gonna let that just sit there for a minute. I like to, when doing my activator, if it's on something like a finished piece like this, is always have it drip away. So if it is gonna roll off, I would turn it upside down. Most of the time this stuff just kind of stays in place. You can wipe it off if there's a ton of it on there. You can blow on it and it dries really fast, but always drip away from the clean product. We have the mount. Now we need to finish this tweeter off so that we can get it into the car. In this particular situation, we're not going to be using the factory mount here because we are going factive. However, if you are, in some cases, you can remove the mount or make your own plug. For this, since we are going to be running our own wires, we are going to make our own plug. Going to cover the end in tape. We're going to be using the exterior type of tape. A couple different brands out there now that you can choose from. This is Tessa, but there's also JK tape. We want about 8 to 10 inches of wire. Roll this down into place. This stuff does not rip. You do need to cut it with scissors. For this mount, because it does conveniently have these holes here, I can zip tie my wire into place so that it doesn't get pulled or snagged or something like that. strip the ends. We like to use male and female bullet connectors. However, you can use whatever you like to make a disconnect. Remember, you want this tweeter to be serviceable. There needs to be a disconnect point somewhere. Red heat shrink over the positive, black heat shrink over the negative. Make sure if you are using bullet connectors, you slide it down far enough so that you can put your sleeve over it from the female version. Usually means you need about 1/4 of an inch of it exposed. This is the driver's side tweeter. I'll add some white heat shrink to that. This is a 3-to-1 shrink so that it'll pull smaller. That's a trick too. If you get like 3-to-1 shrink, you don't have to stock as many different sizes. It is a little bit more expensive. However, you only have to stock one size because it'll shrink down to most applications you're trying to use it for. And now this tweeter is set and ready to go in. As far as serviceability goes, the only thing that's actually attached to the car is this sleeve. The tweeter isn't, so I can pop the grill off, twist the tweeter and pull it out, put a new tweeter in, put the grill back on, and I can put a new tweeter in the car if for whatever reason I need it. I can also, just like the factory, bust out the glue that I put in, glue my factory tweeter back into place just like they had it. Add back in my 3 screws. You'll notice here that I'm not using a drill to do this because when doing small things like this, yes, it is quicker, but I like the control and torque that I get with a regular screwdriver. That way I don't strip out these plastic pieces. And with the last screw, this guy is done. All right, there we go. And we have a new tweeter mounted in our factory location without using a laser. Hope you guys enjoyed this. You guys have a great day as always. Fernando, if you please.
On to the next one, guys.
You guys have a great day as always. We'll see you later next time.
Bye.
Bye.